Hello there and welcome back. Today we have the mass layoffs at Volkswagen and Porsche. Lexus quietly dropped its first EV and the Greens won in Stuttgart. So let's start. Volkswagen is set to cut 10,000 jobs because of its deepest crisis in years. And on top of this, one outlet is reporting that Porsche's profit for 2025 collapsed by 92.7%. And of course, the entire automotive internet instantly ran with the headline, "Oh, Porsche lost all its profit. They have stopped making money. The luxury car maker is finished." But in reality, it's not quite dramatic. It's bad, it's painful, but it's not quite apocalyptic as people may think. So let's start with the Volkswagen first. Back in February, we talked about those rumors about some sort of secret meeting where FSO, Antilles and CEO Bloom were supposedly discussing a super plan how to cut company costs by 20%. Basically, we will cut people, maybe optimize supply chains, maybe come up with something else. But one way or another, 20% of expenses has to go. And now it's March, reporting season is here. Porsche and Volkswagen have published their numbers. First, Volkswagen has originally planned to cut 35,000 jobs by 2030. And they wanted to do it softly as possible. You know, the usual approach is when a person retired, and instead of replacing that person, you just leave those positions totally empty. Through the kind of natural attrition, they hoped to reduce headcount quite significant and maybe trim a few extra people there and here if it needed. Now the plan is bigger. They need to cut 50,000 jobs. Combined, that 35,000 jobs from Volkswagen and 15,000 jobs from Porsche. Again, this is still not a total disaster, because across whole Volkswagen Group it's 600,000 people working, and specifically in Germany it's only 300,000 people. So yes, 50,000 jobs would hurt Germany, but reporting is still vague and we're not sure about that those 50,000 jobs will be cut only in Germany. If it's all across the Volkswagen Group, then Germany is pretty safe. All we know that they said that 50,000 jobs will go one way or another. It's painful, but it's not terminal. And talking about pain, we will go to Volkswagen 2025 financial report. The second thing the entire internet obsessing over is Volkswagen financial report. Their operating profit down 53% compared to 2024. But personally, I don't think that operating profit is the main thing we need to focus on. I'm not some professional financial analyst glued to Bloomberg terminal, but corporate financial reports doesn't scare me. I have read more of them than average journalist who is reaching for just a higher clicks for the news, and I look at the different things. Of course, people want to drag operating profit in the headline and scream minus 56%. What a disaster! Because apparently that's what gets clicked. That's what grabs attention. But there are much more important things than that in Volkswagen report. And honestly, the drop in operating profit is quite logical to me. That's exactly what happens when a company tries to restructure itself. We talked about before about Stellantis writing off 20 billions in investment as losses. So now in 2026 they show up with a terrible financial report. But if they hadn't moved those numbers around, they could have presented those results as a positive and say, see, we made money in 2025, everything is fine, and those 20 billions in investments are still on the balance sheet. Definitely not a problem. Definitely not a problem. Definitely not a bad use of a capital. Please don't ask about returns. Don't ask about profitabilities. Just trust us. But instead, they moved that line into the box called losers. And suddenly now looks everything horrible. No dividends, panic, and all of that. That's the thing actually. With financial statements, you can manipulate optics by moving figures from one box to another box. What interests me is much simpler. Is the company is still alive? Does it still have strengths, resources, and runway to fix itself? Or we are looking at cold corporate walking, like Maserati, for example, which just keeping losing money, customers, and there is no real light at the end of the tunnel. Well, there is a light, but it's probably an oncoming train. If you ask the real question, is Volkswagen alive? The answer is simple, yes it is. First of all, revenue is 322 billion euros, which is almost the same level as it was in 2024. Operating margin is 2.8%, which is sad because it used to be a higher digit. But first, the company is still profitable. Second, with all factors working against them, Trump tariffs, absurdly expensive energy in Germany's broader economic mess, and a failed EV strategy. The Carrier disaster with all of its software bugs and delays, plus a whole bunch of questionable investment in bunch of Chinese EVs, Rivian, and who knows what else. Despite all of that, Volkswagen still managed to make money. The bastards still earn 8.9 billion euros. That's not bad at all. They are even paying dividends, which is actually nice. The next thing that matters is their plan. And this is important. The company admitting that they had a problem. They basically saying we're in a deep shit, and it's already a huge step for such companies, because once you admit the problem, at least you can start fixing it. You stop digging deeper, you stop hiding behind the excuses like, oh, it's the market, oh, it's just bad conditions, it's the government, it's an environmental, it's everything except us. No, these guys are saying this is not acceptable, and we are going to bring back our operating profit margin back to 8-10%. And that's a good target, because for an automaker, a 10% operating margin is a generally strong. Not many can sustain this over time. For 2026, they aim in something like 5-6%, which is good. I would say even ambitious, because that's double where they are now. But translated into plain language, the company wants to spend less and earn more. What a revolutionary thought, especially for Volkswagen. It feels like a fresh air. The guys seems like to realize maybe we should stop pouring money in strong ideas and instead of that making money on an actual cars. I would say just brilliant minds over there. And the most important part is that they are not getting back to 10% operating margin mainly through EVs. That's just impossible, especially without subsidies. So it will be really interesting to watch. What a great revelation they arrive to when they start asking themselves seriously, how exactly would we reach to 10% operating margin? Maybe they will find some ancient dusty tablets, blow the dust off, and the money start flowing through the air. And written on them are the secret symbols like TSI, TFSI and a TDI. And they will say, what do the signs from our ancestors even mean? Why does the room smells like a prophet suddenly? And with that we will switch to Porsche's 2025 financial report. As for Porsche, things are really worse there, and not because the profit fell by 92% and a whole internet is screaming around with the thought that they stop making money. No, the more serious problem is that their revenue fell by 10%. In other words, they made 10% less money overall, total, across everything, not just cars, but also financing, special programs, merch, licensing, and all of the rest of the business. All of that brought in 10% less money, and in a high inflation environmental, that's bad, that's very bad. Because operating profit and profit in general can be managed, you can cut costs, optimize the process, remove excess, introduce new tech, and improve productivity. There are always ways to improve a profit when the money is coming to you. The cash comes to you, and the question is how much will you waste on the way. But when people stop coming to you and stop paying cash, that's a much bigger problem. Because then there is nothing left to optimize, no money. What exactly are you going to optimize, restructure, finance or streamline when customer simply stop bringing you money? So for me, who is actually cares about whether the company will have a future, a 10% drop in revenue is far more alarming for me than a 90% drop in operating profit. Again, look at Stellantis. They just moved their great ideas from one financial box to another called losers, and suddenly the report turns red. Porsche is doing something very similar in 2025. They shut down battery production, and like just that, 700 million euros is gone from the books. Tariff hit them in the knees. They had to adapt logistic, maybe rethink production footprints, and so on. But all of that, closing an EV battery production, adapting to tariffs, maybe opening something new, those are just temporary issues. Losing top-line revenue is a real big problem. And as I said in one of the previous episodes, they, as a company, just don't have something to offer the market right now. In the presentation after this tragic report, they come up with some theater corporate thing. Well, the 911 is the pinnacle of technology, the peak of motorsport, the peak of engineering. And by the way, if you forgot, the hybrid 911 is the fastest 911 ever. Basically, they're still trying to hype anything they have left. But even then, there is no truly new 911 is coming, and the platform dates back to 2010s. We are getting close to 2030s now. The electric Cayenne? Sorry, but even the third generation is still dated back into thinking in 2010s. The Macan? Hello 2000s. And the electric one isn't setting the world on fire. Taycan? Let's just pretend that never happened. And the Panamera, well, that's also dated back in 2010s. Maybe they will squeeze some platforms from an Audi. They are related, talking about sharing some Audi platforms, components, cross-brand synergies, and all the rest of it. But Audi isn't in a better situation either. Same era, same aging foundation. And the customer understands that, and the reason why Porsche clients not bringing them money is not because there is some Xiaomi SU7 exists. No, it's like two different words. The real problem is that right now Porsche have really nothing fresh to offer customers. They have nothing new, most of their platforms is outdated, and that's generally sad. Volkswagen is going to keep the Tiguan alive as long as humanly possible, because apparently in 2030 we will buy cars that were developed in 2010 naturally. Lexus has dropped its first electric car. We're talking about battery-powered UX over there. And it was never a pure EV model only, it was gasoline version, hybrid version, and then, if you go especially alternative thinking, here you go, the electric one. And that battery version just disappeared quietly. No announcement, no official comments, nothing. The model just disappeared. It simply vanished from official website, just dissolved into nature, got recycled back into the production cycle, disappeared without harming the world's ocean. Something like that. It has to be said that it was the first Lexus EV that actually made to the production. They came in all proud like, there you go, you wanted an electric car, you will get one. And now the guys clearly looked at sales numbers, looked at how much they spent, looked how much they earned from that, and went, yeah, screw it. All the promises about electric IS and ES are of course still technically alive. Yes, this year, next year, somewhere we will produce those cars. Someday we will show you even more EVs. No problem, but as of right now, at this exact moment, Lexus has left only one EV left in their lineup, and it's RZ. And in this situation for a brand like Lexus, where every new trend and new technology in the cars world usually arrives a little bit late. Let's put it that way. The delay is actually working in its favor, because the company didn't break its business, it didn't break its own knees, didn't ruin its lineup. Instead, they basically said, well, when it is actually becoming a thing, we will think about then. Some way we eventually thought Bluetooth in entertainment system. But for now, enjoy your cassette tape and a gasoline Lexus. And in today's world, it turns out as a very sane approach. The Greens won the election in the Baden-Württemberg. We're talking about regional elections in Germany. And at first glance, you might say, why should we care? And strictly speaking, sure, most people probably don't give a damn. But for us, it actually matters. Here's why. Baden-Württemberg is the southwestern region of Germany, and the key detail is that its capital is Stuttgart, a tiny, completely unknown town among car people. And because it's Stuttgart, that means that it is home to the headquarters and major operations of, among other, Bosch, ZF, Mahle, one of the biggest suppliers of internal combustion components. In case you forgot, yes, that Mahle, Mercedes-Benz as a car maker, Daimler Truck as another car manufacturer, Mercedes-owned companies division there, Porsche AG, which builds Porsche cars, Porsche SE, which controls entire Volkswagen Group, Rolls-Royce Power System is there too. That's the Rolls subsidiary dealing with engines, power units and aviation engines. All that. Liebherr is there as well. The yellow excavator people. And that's not even a full list. All of this is concentrated in Stuttgart and area around that. And on top of that, there are hundreds of other smaller suppliers, subsidiaries, contractors and all other sort of industrial companies packed in the same region. If we are talking in broad numbers, Baden-Württemberg accounts for 15% of Germany GDP. It's also one of the richest states in country overall, and in this region where a huge share of Germans, automotive, industrial, transmission, aviation and heavy equipment companies concentrated, the Greens have won again, because they have been running this region since 2011. And you can definitely tell that they have been running this region since 2011. If you remember that Germany at some point in its lifeline decided to shut down the nuclear power plant, the one which was closed in 2023, is located in same city. But to be fair, the original decision wasn't made by the Greens, it was made by CDU government, but that's not a main point there. The main point there is that we are talking about Germany as a most industrial region in Europe, and all major players are connected to the automotive industry. Mercedes, Porsche, Bosch, ZF and the rest, all under serious pressure. Their financial models no longer work properly, they are cutting jobs, and we keep discussing this over and over again. And naturally, the first jobs to go is there in Germany itself. And yet people living there are voted for the Greens, who are saying we will fix everything. Well, we will see in a few years what they have fixed. But I really hope they're smart enough not to mess with internal combustion engines furthermore, because overall the Greens in Germany haven't exactly been known for restraint over the last 15 years or so. And this is all news I want to share with you in that episode. Anyway, I'm Storm, drive safe, and I will see you in next video.